Hello teachers! Welcome back to another History Day school year. We know that this year will bring challenges with remote and hybrid teaching, but we are so glad that you decided to continue with this project. In this webinar, there are two main topics that I want to discuss. The first topic is official NHG changes. They've made some changes to the rulebook, the judging sheets, and the website platform. And the second topic is how History Day is going to work with remote teaching. And I'll give you some tips for using our teacher resource packet with Google Classroom and Canvas and some general advice. The first order of business is the NHG Rulebook. They just released a new rulebook in July, so if you haven't had a look at it yet, you can find it at the URL I have listed at the bottom of this slide. There's a download button in the right column menu of that page. Here I've pulled out some of the bigger and more noticeable changes that they've made. First, process papers are required for all categories, including the research paper category. They also ask that students include their main argument in the process paper, which I think many of you have asked your students to do in the past, but now it's in writing. It is also officially in writing that the process paper should not include quotes, images, or captions. Next, annotations should be no longer than 3 sentences. In the past, more ambitious students have taken advantage of the annotated bibliography and treated it as an extension of the project, and we would see paragraph-long annotations. And it's great to see that enthusiasm, but it makes it hard for judges to finish reading and evaluating the project within the allotted time. It might also be useful to students to point out that the annotations they write will be different from the notes that they make for themselves about each source. Next, the length of media clips has been reduced to 2 minutes for exhibits and 3 minutes for websites. And finally, students cannot change their category or topic after entering the district level contest. This has been clarified and stated directly. So students can technically change their category or topic between the school and district level contests, but not after the district contest. And like I said, these are just some of the bigger changes. There are many more small and category specific changes and wording clarifications. And we've included a summary of significant changes in our Google Drive teacher resource folder. But NHG says that this is also not exhaustive. So again, make sure to have a look at the new rulebook in its entirety when you get a chance, and encourage your students to as well. NHG has also completely revamped their judging rubrics and changed some of the criteria. So be aware of these changes, but don't worry too much about it from your students' point of view. These changes likely won't change how the students do the project, but they'll help the judges to focus on the most important parts of the project. At first glance, you can see that they've done away with the spaces in between superior and excellent and good, etc. And they've given descriptions of what student work at each marking division will look like. For example, let's take a closer look at historical context. This is a criterion that has always been on the judging sheet, and now we have more clarity on what a successful presentation of context will look like. To get marked superior, the student must analyze the short and long-term causes of the event at hand. To get marked excellent, they must identify the short and long-term causes of the event. So there's a slight difference in intellectual engagement between those two markings, and they represent two different levels in Bloom's taxonomy of higher order thinking. For the good marking, the student has explained the causes of the event, so that suggests they might not have considered both long and short-term causes. And for the fair marking, the student has identified the key people, events, and ideas leading to the event, but this one suggests that they don't make a direct connection between cause and effect, perhaps. Now let's look at some of the changes that were made to the judging criteria. First, we no longer have the 60-20-20 breakdown of rubric categories, where we had 60% of the judging consideration going to historical quality, 20% to theme connection, and 20% to clarity of presentation. The new rubrics have 80% going to historical quality and 20% to clarity of presentation. The theme connection is still an important part of the project, but they've put it as a criterion under historical quality instead. This sub-criterion is part of a new criterion for historical argument. The thesis or argument is a part of the project that most teachers have long been instructing their students to include, but it was never on the judging rubric before. Now there is a place to recognize a well-written thesis or to identify that a thesis needs work. And just as the argument is woven throughout the project, the theme is as well. Another new sub-criterion under significance in history is a discussion of short and long-term impacts of the event. Again, this is a part of the project that we have long included in our teaching resources and that most teachers have been facilitating, but now there's a place to discuss it on the rubric. Finally, there's a brand new criterion for student voice. This is where the judges recognize that the ideas, analysis, argument, and conclusions are a student's own. We don't want students to lean too heavily on the conclusions that other historians have made. We want them to practice making connections on their own. The other criteria in this section are the same as or very similar to criteria on the old rubrics. They just now have these descriptions to help the judges decide where to make their marks. Under this grid, there will also be space for writing more specific feedback as there has been in the past. And there will now be a word minimum to ensure that judges are thoughtful about the feedback they give and that students have enough feedback to understand the mark they got. In the clarity of presentation category, many of the qualities that were previously lumped together in one criterion have been teased apart and clarified a bit. One quality from the old rubric was clear. Now we have clarity in text and in visual clarity. Another quality was appropriate, and now we have appropriateness in the written material and appropriateness of visual material. The only truly new criterion here asks the judges to consider how the project is structured and segmented. Keep in mind that this example is from the exhibit rubric, and the rubrics for other project categories will be worded slightly differently in the clarity section. NHG has also made changes to their website building platform, NHG Web Central. They just opened this platform for the past year's contest, and after lots of feedback, they have done some things to hopefully make it more user-friendly. In this version of NHG Web Central, there will be an option for an automatic navigation bar, which will be very helpful. Last year, students were building out those navigation bars on their own. There will be no containers in this new version. There will be easy layout columns, and the new version can be used in any web browser, Chrome, Firefox, etc., and it can be used on a tablet as well. This is just what I know so far, some of the more significant changes, but there are probably other details as well. NHG will have new instructional guides and webinars up on their website before long, so keep an eye out for those. And this year, many students might be enticed to choose the website category, especially if they have their own devices from the schools. The new structure of remote teaching might be a great opportunity for them, since the process of figuring out how to make a website is one that takes a lot of independent tinkering. And it also might be a good year for teachers to play around with the website builder. This is what many of your students are learning in school nowadays, not just for History Day. So it's good to know what they're facing and what struggles they might be having that are running parallel to their research project process. So we've discussed the material changes that came down from NHD. Now we need to confront the new reality of this school year, remote and hybrid teaching. As returning teachers, you might be familiar with the Maryland History Day teacher resource packet that we put out. It used to be on a flash drive, but now we are just doing Google Drive. If you bookmarked it last year, it's still the same link, but we've updated a lot of the resources inside to pertain to the 2021 theme. If you're not familiar with this packet, you can follow the URL at the bottom of the screen and you'll find it under Teacher Resources. The folder includes student worksheets, online research guides, official NHG materials like the Rulebook, Themebook, and judging rubrics, teacher guides, including sample timelines and planning materials, and we have a sample student folder in there with just the student-facing documents. You might have used these worksheets, these student worksheets, in the past by printing them out and distributing them to your class. But since you are all using online learning management systems this year, I'm going to give you some instructions for using our student worksheets on Google Classroom and on Canvas. And I've got some screenshots so you can follow along. So I'll start with Google Classroom. All right, so the first thing to do to use our online worksheets in Google Classroom is to create a shortcut to the NHD teacher resource folder in your Google Drive. So that will end up in the main area of My Drive in your Google account. Next, you're going to go into Google Classroom and create an assignment, and then click the button that says Add with a little paper clip next to it and select Google Drive. And then it will open up this box where you can select, you can go to My Drive and then select the Maryland History Day Teacher Resource folder. Then you can open up that folder, look around and locate the worksheet that you want to use within that folder and press Insert. Then it will take you back to the main page of the assignment, and you'll want to make sure to set it to make a copy for each student. Then you can click Assign in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll get this dialog box that says Can't attach this file. But don't be deterred, you can attach it. All you need to do is press that copy button in there, and it will automatically make a copy of that Google Doc for you so that you can distribute it out to your students. If you're using Canvas this year, you can still use Google Docs in your assignments, but there's an extra step you need to take since you don't own the Maryland History Day docs. So that first step is right here at the beginning. You're going to go into Google Drive, go into the Maryland History Day Teacher Resource folder, and right-click the Google Doc worksheet that you would like to assign and click Make a Copy. And again, this copy that you make will go into the main My Drive area of your Google Drive account. Then go into Canvas and create a Canvas assignment. And in that assignment, change the submission type to External Tool. Then it will prompt you to find the external tool that you want to use. So click on Find and then select Google Docs Cloud Assignment, which they'll offer you as an option. That will open up a box that will allow you to navigate through your Google Drive folder. So find that Google Doc worksheet from the list of files and folders and click Submit. And then you can finish publishing the assignment. I have some more general tips here for doing History Day remotely. So first, always make sure your students save their work somewhere on the cloud, like on Google Drive. When we had to make our contest virtual this past spring, some students had their work saved on their computers at school, or their physical exhibit was at the school and they had no way to reconstruct the work that they had done. Have them share their project link with you and any group members. Google Drive can also be a good place to keep group task lists so students can see in real time what work still needs to get done within their group. If you have breakout rooms with your video classroom software, take advantage of them and have your students do peer feedback at different steps in the process. One of the things they're losing with remote teaching is the sense of collaborating with their peers, so find ways to add that interaction back in. Make project work visible. Give students the chance to present their project in your virtual classrooms. This will build students' confidence about the work they've done and build morale around the project. And finally, post on your school's website, newsletter, and social media about History Day. This will build enthusiasm among not just your students, but your school and your school community. As you all suspected and feared, our plans for remote and hybrid teaching are going to pose some concerns, especially about equity. In some ways, remote teaching will open up opportunities for students because for the first time, school districts have made it a priority to get devices and internet in the homes of all students, but we know that not everything will be solved come September. So my first step is to be aware of your students' needs. This year will take some extra empathy. Make your students feel comfortable enough that they can come to you if they have barriers preventing them from completing this work. Next, you might have students with unreliable internet connections or inconsistent device availability. Be prepared to mail home materials if you have students who can't access them online or can't print them at home. Many school districts in Maryland are offering devices and hotspots to families with school-age children. Be aware of that process and make instructions available to students who need them. Some of your students, like your English learners, students with IEPs, and students reading below grade level, will also be at a disadvantage with remote teaching. Offer one-on-one meetings for students who need extra help and coordinate with specialists and paraprofessionals to help with the History Day process. My next advice is to suggest topics that can be easily researched with materials your students can pick up from the public library, or suggest formats that fit the resources your students have available. For example, website and documentary will be more difficult with spotty internet, and the exhibit requires craft materials to be purchased. Finally, be flexible. Understand that this year will look different and that the most important thing is still that your students got to research a topic that they really care about and they picked up some historical thinking skills along the way. I know that you are probably curious about what the state contest will look like this year, and right now we still don't know what the contest will look like. We haven't ruled out an in-person contest yet, but we know it's possible that we could have to go 100% virtual again or something in between. We will try to make a concrete plan as early as we can so that you know what to expect in the spring. If we do end up going virtual again, we know we'll be better prepared this year. If you did History Day last school year, you know that the pandemic shut down schools right in the middle of your district contests about 6 weeks before the state contest. We had to make everything virtual on the fly, which wasn't easy. But we learned many lessons along the way, and we gathered lots of feedback that will help inform our planning for this year if it's still not safe to gather for a contest in May. One of the things that will help us prepare is that NHG is working on standardizing templates for exhibits and performances. These are the two categories that were the hardest to move to an online format, and this was one of the things that made last year really difficult. Having standardized templates will help keep everything consistent at every level of the contest. NHG plans to have those templates out by mid-September, and we'll be sure to add them to our teacher resource folder. Another place where the 2020 virtual contest fell short was that we weren't able to hold interviews for the students and judges. A lot of people were disappointed by that because the interview really helps the judges see the thought the students put into their work. It also helps them to see them as young people and to provide constructive criticism accordingly. And for the students, it builds their confidence and allows them to share and take pride in the work that they've done. We would really like to find a way to bring interviews back, even if we have another virtual contest, so we're working with NHG to find a format that will be safe and equitable. Finally, for more information about your district contest, contact your district History Day coordinator. As you might know, the Maryland History Day outreach staff usually travel all over Maryland to do classroom visits during the school year to support the History Day process. Since most schools in Maryland are starting the year with remote or hybrid learning, we'd love to offer virtual classroom visits instead. We can give a general session to introduce students to History Day, or skills sessions in research, primary and secondary sources, or writing a thesis, and later in the process we do project feedback sessions. Or you can just chat with us and tell us your students' needs and we can create a custom session for you. You can find the link to the outreach request form at the URL here, also on our website. If you don't yet receive it, go to our website to sign up for our teacher e-news, where you can stay informed about History Day deadlines and professional development opportunities. This year, we're also planning to hold a monthly meeting for History Day teachers all over Maryland. We'll have a different topic each month to line up with where your students are in the process, so come with your questions and concerns, but also your expertise to help us talk through the challenges of this project. Thanks again for watching. We're so glad to have you as part of the Maryland History Day community, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact a member of our team.